This Machette VanHelsing. I'm going to talk this out. It's not scripted. It's not premeditated. I just felt that it was time for me to start talking again. So I'm going to run through this and do the best that I can. See how it goes. So I'm going to start here, the same place I usually start. We've all been born into a game that we did not create. We did not make the rules to this game, and yet we were all born and forced into it. Now, this is the starting point of actually living your life, is when you realize that you're in a game. So much so that when you turn 21, you receive points for it. Whether you lived with your parents or not, there's points for that too. Now, I'm not talking about the credit score. There's an entire other score that people have no idea about. And so yeah, we're in a game. If you look at your money's the same colors as Monopoly money. The fives are pink, the tens are yellow, the twenties are green, the 50s are blue. Take a look at your money. And I would say that I would compare the game that we're actually in to a role-playing game like The Legend of Zelda or Final Fantasy or games like that. And I use this comparison because it's similar to these games in the respect that we all start in our village, in our neighborhood. That's usually when you turn the game on, that's how it starts. You read the book, you learn a little bit about the game, you learn a little bit about how to play, you learn a little bit about the good guys, the bad guys, the storyline, and the game starts usually in your village, the place where you were born and raised at. That's where we all start. Next, most of the time, the I don't want to say the main character of the game receives information, you know, walking around in the village, talks to somebody, receives some information about, it depends on what the story is, but you receive information and you're next year to make a decision, right? That decision is whether or not you would like to help in usually saving the world. Sometimes it's a small task and you don't know that you're about to save the world or that the point is saving the world until later, but most of the time you're making a decision to help fight the forces of evil. And sometimes they give you the option to be the bad guy and you're fighting good. And I'm going to get to that later. But that these games are similar to the game of life that we're playing now, because once you realize that you're in a game, you have to decide first to play whether you're going to play or whether you're going to be one of the background characters that do the same thing every day, all day, the same patterns. Those are the characters in the background, right? um you decide to be them or to be one of the players in the game. Next, you have to decide whether you're going to be one of the good guys or one of the bad guys, right? You have this choice. After that, your next decision is more of a realization. self-reflection. You have to decide what character you're going to be in the game. Now, this decision, this next step requires self-analysis. You have to find, or you have to set aside, or you have to make note of or keep mind of what your talents are, what your gifts are, what you're naturally good at, and what you're interested in, right? These things are what make up your character, because those are the things that you are going to be able to use to help other people with, and perhaps help animals, help plants, help the environment, right? But your talents and gifts, right, are what enable you to be able to help, and what builds your character in the game, right? Okay, so once you decide what character you're going to be in the game, then you have to go around the village, you have to collect your items, your books, your weapons, your armor, your whatever it is that you have to collect, your crystals, your whatever it is you have to collect, and you go out into the game and play, right? Now, I'm going to stop here and bring us back to the reality that we're dealing with now and say, once we realize we're in the game, we have to understand what type of game we're playing. Okay? Now, I know that in many circles we're taught that, we're dealing with commerce, and we're dealing with, they like to call it commerce. And I think that there's a word missing from commerce, and that word is cosmic. I think that if people added the word cosmic to the word commerce, the game that we're playing would be easier to understand, because we're dealing with cosmic commerce, right? Talk about corporations, and the big corporations, the big corps, and the big banks, and right, we're dealing with, you know it's I've heard these war cries for so many years that I actually understand everybody, and I know where everybody's coming from, because I was there and I taught these things to these people. And the conclusion that I came to is going to be, revealed in this audio, as, as I go through everything that I can come up with. And so the game that we're playing, the way it's set up, is based on cosmic commerce, okay? Because we're dealing with business, commerce that existed before Earth existed, before man existed. These affairs, this business, this commerce, these politics, right, have been going on other worlds and other universes and galaxies before mankind existed. And it's here, and we're dealing with it on our planet. That's what's going on. Okay? Let's just I'm not going to bullshit you people, right? I'm not going to bullshit people. That's what we're dealing with, this cosmic commerce. Okay? So now, the level that most of us start in the game is the bottom of what's called the feudalistic pyramid, right? Feudalistic pyramid, right? There's a pyramid that shows uh, a chart of the feudalistic system, and it has the levels and positions of the different characters, titles, and stages levels, I would say, the different levels in the game, right? And of course, in the beginning of the game, everyone starts at the bottom on level one, right? Okay, so here's the thing about our reality and our level one. On our level one, most people were born into what everyone calls the system, right? This system is based on cosmic commerce and business, right? Because, I'm going to use the word business because we're going to transition to the word corporation soon. But yes, cosmic commerce, cosmic business. And those of us that live in America, we're dealing with, and like I said, I'm going to keep this 100 with everybody. I'm not going to filter it. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to hide anything or leave anything out in this conversation. That's what I call it. It's a conversation. I'm talking to you guys. You're not talking back, but I still consider it as a conversation. And so, what we're dealing with here in America is a company that took over the country. I say again, we're dealing with a company that took over, invaded, and took over the country. Okay? The United States Incorporated is a corporation, which is a business, and America is the land, the country. And so the United States of America, just like the Crips of Crenshaw, means the gang or organization that took over and controls this territory. So the United States invaded and took over this country, this territory. The United States of America, the Crips of Crenshaw. Okay? It doesn't say the United States is America, it says the United States of America. All right. Just wanted to clear that up, and for good reason. Because next, everyone has to understand that the Social Security number is an employee identification number, and that the Social Security application is an employment application to work for and receive benefits from the United States Incorporated. So, everyone with a Social Security number is considered as a worker, an employee of the United States Incorporated. Incorporated. Okay? Because only corporations have presidents and vice presidents. Everyone hates Donald Trump, but he constantly drops clues. One of those clues was he told everyone to incorporate. Another one of those clues was, I don't watch television, but I was randomly walking past the television and the presidential debate was on. And I didn't care for or pay attention to the debate except for the fact that I heard Donald Trump say the words, this company, this company, this company, like 5 times. This company in reference to the United States Incorporated. Okay, right? So, as to not digress, I come back to the fact that everyone with a Social Security number is an employee of the United States Incorporated. Okay? What they call laws is actually corporate policy. Okay? and the police officers are policy enforcers, corporate policy enforcers, cops, corporate policy enforcers, cops. So the situation that everyone's dealing with, trying to get out of, is the level one of the game. Now, those that those that are against you have set up the game, the system, so that making it past level one would be extremely difficult and yet easy at the same time. Almost to the point where a majority of the people in the game are locked into level one and will not find a way out. Level one is almost like a maze. And so, in this position, everyone is considered as a United States citizen, which means United States employee. Okay. These people are also considered as second class citizens. I had to say that and clear that up. Okay? Now, in this game, I really have to nail this in, right? I really, really, really have to nail this in. In this game, there are only two sides. Okay, now I understand that ultimately all is good, right? I understand ultimately all is good, and I will get to that eventually. Okay, but I must start this conversation by meeting everyone where they're at. Okay, and I'm not saying everybody's at this level, but most people are. So those that are past this level, please bear with me. All right. In this game, there are two sides. There is good and there is evil. Now, why I'm going to solidify this statement in this part of the conversation is for the sake of understanding what it is that we're working against, right? Because there are forces that are working against us. So we have to, in return, work against those forces in order to level up and win the game, right? Okay, beat the game, okay? And so these two sides, right? Good and evil. We have ancient and historical archetypes, characters to look towards in this story, in the storyline of this game, to give us direction in our advancement of our existence. And so now I'm going to have to clear up those two sides. Of course, the first side would be good. The head character archetype that we'll be looking at is popularly known as God. I use that term for the sake of conversation and because everyone generally knows what I mean when I say that. Okay? So now, let me go deeper into what I mean when I say that. Out of all of the intelligent beings throughout all of the galaxies and throughout all of eternity, there had to be a first intelligent being. Somebody had to be first. The first to think, the first to create, the first to love, the first to feel, the first to everything, right? Somebody had to be first. Whoever that first being is, that first intelligent being is, that's who God is. So everybody's arguing about, but there has to be a God because somebody had to be first. And man is not the only intelligent life in the universe throughout all of eternity. It's impossible. The numbers just don't add up for that. And so, the first intelligent being ever, that's who God is. Okay? All right. Now, from that first intelligent being came all other intelligent beings. I'm not going to tell you exactly how because I don't know. Okay? I don't know. But every other intelligent being came after that first intelligent being. That is logic and common sense. As much common sense and logic as it is that there had to be a first intelligent being throughout the entirety of the universe and galaxies, the grand universe, throughout all of eternity, it is logic and common sense that somebody had to be first. Okay, that's who God is, that first intelligent being ever. And so now, I'm not going to get into the story of God and Lucifer and how Lucifer rebelled, and I did that already in one of my videos. So you can go to that video and hear the entire story. I explain it all, talk it out. Here we're talking about the game. All right. So on level 1, as a second class citizen, you are also considered as a slave and property of the United States Incorporated. Okay? Now, the very next subject I'm going to bring up is freedom, because the last subject, the last word, the last subject, the last point that I just expressed was slavery. And so the very next subject has to be freedom. I'm not even going to get into how people are slaves and what I explained all of that in one of my videos too. Okay? It is a fact that if you have a social security number, right? You are an employee of the United States Incorporated, which is considered as a second class citizen, a federal citizen, a United States citizen. Okay? You can only receive benefits from a company that you work for. You can't receive benefits out of nowhere. That's an employer-employee relationship, receiving benefits, right? Okay, so on level 1, you're an employee, a slave for the United States Incorporated. If you live in America, I'll talk about other countries later. And so our goal is freedom. Everyone's goal is freedom, how to get out of the system. Let me explain why we're dealing with the problems we're dealing with. I'm going to talk about travel now, okay? When you're in your car, and I'm going to be simplistic with this to help you understand all of the complex things, right? I'm going to be simple. The reason why you can't drink and drive is because you're an employee for a corporation. That car is a company car because when you bought it, the manufacturer's statement of origin was immediately sent to the motor vehicles department of motor vehicles, which is a department, one of the departments of the corporation, which is one of the departments of the corporation. Oh my gosh. And so that car was registered to the company, making it a company car. You then had to go get a license to drive company cars if you didn't have one already. A license is a permit, right? A permit to drive one of the company cars. You are now a designated driver. You can now drive for the company. The reason why you can't drink and drive is because the company doesn't want their drivers with Hennessy bottles in the passenger seat or in their lap while they're on company time. Yes, as an employee for the United States, you are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yes, yes, yes. And so that is why people are harassed on the road because you're considered as employees. The reason why what they consider as laws apply to you is because they're enforcing corporate policy, which does apply to you as an employee. Now, let's talk about rights. Ooh, let's talk about rights. Okay. Firstly, there are two constitutions. Since we're going to talk about rights, there's two constitutions. The first constitution was created by the original founding fathers, and they were religious or spiritual men. The original constitution was created to protect God's people from tyranny, oppression, and corruption. Okay? That was what the original Constitution was created for. God's children, God's people meant those that could prove it because anyone could say, I'm a priest, I'm ordained, I'm baptized. So it obviously meant those that could prove it, which takes me to my other point in saying that one of the major ways, one of the major aspects of this game is paper. I'm not going to call it a paper game because there are very many other aspects to this game that we're going to be considering. But a major part of this game is paper because everyone has to prove their position amongst other things on paper. It's the digital age now, but paper still has the power. And so those that could prove it on paper were protected under the original Constitution because they had baptismal certificates, ordination certificates, Bible birth records, blah, 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 etc., etc. Now, here's where here's the ass kicker, right? Okay, so the United States Incorporated, when they began taking over America, they created something called a charter. This charter was a corporate charter because all corporations have to create a corporate charter. This corporate charter is the rules or bylaws of the corporation, corporate policy. All right? Ah. And so, and I'll say the bylaws and corporate policy are somewhat different, but the point is that the United States Incorporated named their corporate charter the United States Constitution. And so now you have two constitutions. The first constitution is for God's people, those that could prove it on paper. The second constitution is for corporations. We are the persons, because corporations are considered as persons. Persons are considered as corporations. They are one and the same. And so you have a constitution for clergy, you have a constitution for corporations. Corporate employees, aka second-class citizens, have no rights. Let me say that another way. People with social security numbers have no rights to fight for. There's no constitution for you. And so now we get into status change and leveling up and freedom from the system, right? Now, making it off or from this level, there's a number of ways that that can be done. The first way is through baptism and or ordination through a free church, because an incorporated church is not a real church. It is a business that is in business to look like a church. I'm not even going to repeat that. And so that is the first way to free yourself from the system. This method is considered as abandonment or adjuration of the realm. You abjured the realm. You abandoned this realm. It is also called a civil death, because to this realm, that entity that represented that you represented, that entity, the all capital letter name, is considered as dead. And so it is considered as a civil death, because you decided to become baptized and or ordained, and you abandoned everything in the public sector. Now, the public sector is the corporate sector. It's the sector of business and commerce and taxation, right? And the private sector is the spiritual sector. That's the best way for me to describe that sector. It's the spiritual sector. It's the sector of nature, everything natural and divine, everything natural and holy and pure. That's the private sector, right? Which is outside of the jurisdiction of the public sector. To give you an example of this, I would say Buddhist monks, they're in the private sector. They're private as hell, right? Championship basketball team, or the top 500 corporations in the world, that's the public sector. And there are private sector companies, private sector organizations, but they're two realms, two separate realms, right? So let me get that out of the way so that you know what I meant when I said private and public. So now, The second way to free yourself from the system is by becoming a non-profit religious or non-profit faith-based organization. Becoming one. That is to say that you take your all capital letter name and you convert it into a non-profit faith-based organization. Now, doing these two things requires specific details and steps that I, of course, can help you with, so you don't have to worry about the how, or worry about trying to figure that out, spending months, maybe years, getting to the point where you can actually do it. I'm here to, that's what I'm here for. So, next, the next way to free yourself from the system, and one of the, this is one of the really, really deep and serious ways. I mean, I have to explain this one, so I'm going to spend some time on this one here. To incorporate the name, the all capital letter name, the legal name, the straw man. What this is to say is that you're converting the all capital letter name from an employee to a corporation. Now, that's because when I used the word you earlier, that was to help to give you an idea of what your position is in the game. Now I'm going to explain to you the difference between you and the all capital letter name. Okay. That all capital letter name on top of the social security number is actually an entity, because all names in all capital letters are actually entities and not individual people. That is also to say that once you receive the social security number, the United States Incorporated created an entity with the same name as you and attached that entity to you, meaning that the entity is actually the employee. The entity is actually the second class citizen. The entity is actually the slave. But because you were not told this, you were coerced, tricked into thinking that you and the entity were indeed one and the same being, when in truth, you are not. That is also a form of possession, because most people think that they are the entity and they aren't. That entity normally controls people. You get a letter in the mail, you get a phone call, whatever you're told, whatever that entity is commanded to do, you volunteer your energy, labor, and time to carrying out that task unknowingly, which is definitely possession. I'm not going to get into that, but it is. And so, when you incorporate the name, you convert the entity from from an employee into a corporation, from a federal citizen to a state citizen. Now let me explain state citizenship, right? These are all ways to to level up in the game, and I'll explain what these levels are right after I get through all of the ways to get out of it, out of the game, out of the, right? it's not even escaping the system. It's more so mastering the system, because there's no way to really get out of the system, because even the private sector is part of the entire system, right? Okay, so state citizenship, when that entity receives an a tax ID number, that entity has officially been converted into a corporation. A corporation cannot possibly be in that position. This entity cannot possibly be an employee, because now it's in a corporation all on its own, right? Also, corporations have to register with the state that they're doing business in by applying for articles of incorporation. Articles of incorporation is that entity registering with the state. When that entity registers with the state, that is its citizenship. That entity now becomes a citizen of that state by registering with that state. This is something that the elite do, something that the top lawyers and doctors and entertainers and athletes, this is what they do. Politicians, this is what they do. Everything that I'm telling you, right, this is what they do. And state citizenship is status change, in that now you will be treated like the elite. When you go to hotels, when you book flights, when you go to restaurants, you will be treated different. Car dealerships, you'll be treated differently, simply because you are now corporate. You are now a walking, talking business. Jay-Z said, "I'm not a businessman. I am a businessman." We've seen examples of the people that have incorporated themselves throughout history. And I would say in our modern times, we've definitely seen examples of those that have been incorporated. There's a book entitled Too Big to Fail, Too Big to Jail, right? Too Big to Jail. It explains how corporations are not convicted or charged with crimes because they are too big to be jailed. That is because corporations are considered as state citizens, and state citizens are outside of the jurisdiction of the United States Incorporated, because they are not employees for the United States Incorporated, which means that the United States corporate policy does not apply to state citizens. So corporate policy cannot be enforced on state citizens. Ooh. Yeah. Okay. Now, another way to master the system is by setting up a personal private trust. Now, in doing this, you are not necessarily abandoning the all capital letter name. What you're doing is you're creating a private sector entity with that name. This way, you can operate under your name through the private sector and through this private sector entity. I'm not going to get into the details of that because trusts are pretty deep, and I explain that in one of my videos too. So I'm not going to spend 45 minutes on that here. So I don't want this video to be too long. And so you have these 4 ways that you can master the system. Now, I'm not saying that those are the only ways, but yeah, those are the only ways, right? And none of these methods require you mailing anything to anybody. You don't have to go to a courthouse for anything. You don't have to ask anybody for permission to do this. You don't have to, you don't have to, you don't need your birth certificate or your thumbprint or your footprint. You don't need any of that to do this. Okay? And how long it takes however long it takes you to read the materials. It takes you about however long it takes to go on these websites, get your EIN number, get your articles of incorporation. However long that takes is how long it takes. Okay, let's cut the crap here. You know what I mean? And that's as far as incorporating is concerned, or setting up a religious faith-based, or should I say a nonprofit faith-based organization. Those 2 methods take as long as it takes for you to get your EIN number and your articles. Baptism and ordination is now virtual, so I conduct that process. I'd say it takes, it takes a couple of days, right? So I'd say between 3 to 7 days to complete both of those things, right? The paperwork, the virtual baptism, which is not really virtual because I'll say that detail now. With baptisms, how we do that is the individual that is requesting to be baptized has to be physically baptized by a believer that they can find or someone that they know, and then that event is recorded on our files, and we send out the baptismal certificate because we have proof that you've been baptized, right? So through our church, you receive your baptismal certificate, and you'll be baptized under our church. And so that's how that works. And baptism and ordination gives us freedom from the system because the First Amendment of both constitutions separates God's people from the system. And so these methods are used by the elite, the wealthy. All of these methods are used by the wealthy, and it is how they receive immunity and authority and access to unlimited resources and funding. They do these things. And there's a particular way that they do them, a specific way that they do them. There's certain documents and forms and papers that they use to back them up and provide proof of their position and status. There's certain accounts that they apply for, certain companies they do business with, and all of this is part of the codes to beating the game, okay? And so now I get back to you, the individual, because once you, or should I say, before you are able to do these things, you have to deprogram and reprogram yourself, the self. You have to do it. You can listen to videos, you can listen to me, you can you can watch whatever you need to watch. You can go to seminars and webinars. You can do all of that, but it really you can save your money and your time because it really just boils down to what you want. Do you really want it? Right? It all comes down to your will. And I heard a very popular speaker, it's a very wealthy man. I was I was touched when that individual said that some of the things blocking us from being successful and happy in life is the food we eat, the poison in the food, the poison in the water, the radiation. All of those things are slowing us down. I should say slowing us down to be nice with it, because I could get nasty with it. I could say how bad and disgusting, how horrible these things are, but to be nice about it, you know. And it was impressive that I heard him say these things because I didn't expect it. It was a lecture about making money and being successful and achieving your dreams, and I didn't think that he would say that. I just didn't think he would say that. He talked about high fructose corn syrup and sodium fluoride and using microwaves and the cell phones and the cell phone towers and how all that stuff just breaks us down and breaks down the human will to the point where we don't want to be successful, right? And so, in order to do this, everybody has to get to the point where their human will becomes strong enough that they'll actually go out there and play the game and beat the game. And so, here's how this is I'm going to help everyone the best that I can. I'm going to help everybody do that. First, like I said before, I'm going to meet you where you're at. A lot of people are not happy with their lives. So I'm not going to say that everybody's depressed, but I know that a lot of people are not happy. If you were happy, you wouldn't have kept listening to this because you know that I'm getting you to somewhere that would make you happier, and it would improve your life if you just, there's something you can feel that that something about what this guy is saying is going to lead me somewhere. So let me keep listening. You're right. You're right. Because talking to me is not communications with an individual. Talking to me means that you came to a place because I'm standing at the exit of the maze. And so if you're talking to me, you already made it out of the maze. If you're hearing my voice talk about this, you already made it out. And so now it comes to the point where you have to overcome yourself in order to be able to play the game and win. So I'm going to give you the secrets to the secret to the secret without taking you through 14 hours worth of lecture and talks. Here are the keys to first I have to help people make it out of some bad places because let me do that first. Because I just made it out of depression and heartbreak, and those two things could literally kill you because you can want to kill yourself, and then feeling that way, you make yourself sick, you attract negative things to yourself. And so, let me help people with their problems first, overcome problems, okay? First thing I'm going to say is that no matter what your problem is, the main problem is attachments. You're attached to something you're not letting go of. I don't care if it's something that somebody did, if it's a thing, if it's a person, place, a thing, or an event, or a situation. There's something that you're attached to you're not letting go of. That's the problem. Whatever your problem is, that's the problem. I don't care if you have heart problems. The problem with your heart is stress from something that you're not letting go of, right? And so Buddha taught that the root of all suffering is attachment. Okay? So I, Machette VanHelsing, am telling you that no matter what your problem is, the main problem is attachments, which means that logically, right, and through common sense, means that your solution is detachment. You have to learn to detach yourself from the things that you're attached to. That doesn't mean to remove these things from your life. That means that in your mind, you have to detach yourself from these people, places, things, and events and situations. You have to forgive. You have to let it go. I used to get mad when people said that. And the reason why I would get mad when people said that was because I'm fucking smart. Pardon me for cursing, but I'm smart. And and I understand very many things. And when people tell me to let go, my brain would take me to a point where it's like, listen, I can't forget what happened. Right? There's no way that I can make myself forget what happened. First of all. Second of all, whenever I think about the things that bother me, they piss me off. So I'm gonna get pissed off when I think about these things, and there's no way that I could forget them. So what the hell do you mean? Let it go. I wish people would stop saying that to me. It used to get on my nerves. People, whatever it is, Machete, let it go. Listen, first of all, how do you even know that there's something bothering me? Is it that obvious? And if it is, what do you mean by let it go? Like, that's not even possible, right? That's what I thought. It is possible to let things go. It's possible to let things go through forgiveness. It's possible to let things go by realizing that all of the challenges and things that you considered as bad in your life were actually things that help you grow. It moved things out of your life and made room for better things in your life. It helped you learn. Everything is a lesson, right? So I realized that that I was wrong. You can let go by realizing the truth of these things. And so that's the first thing I want to do in helping people is you have to, your solution is detachment. Your problem is attachment. You have to overcome that. I can't do that for you, but I can help you by telling you, helping you find what the problem is, what the main problem is. Okay. I don't care if it's abuse, something happened, you lost the one year, you were working at a job for 20 years and you lost your job, it was out of nowhere, COVID. I don't know what it is that happened, but you have to detach yourself from the things that you are attached to. Let them go. Okay. Now, depression. Let me help people with depression because I just overcame depression recently, and so I'm going to help everyone that is going through that. Because you can't play this game or beat the game if you don't overcome the things that are hindering your will from applying things that from implementing things that will help you level up. Okay? And so depression, let's talk about depression. Whoa. Okay. First of all, I want to say that I was so depressed and heartbroken at one point for about a split second that I was ready to go. I didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't see what the reason was. And so now I can say I understand those people. I understand the people going through depression, heartbreak. I understand suicidal people. Let me help you because I overcame that. Here's how I did it. Okay. First of all, I want to say depression is like being in a, the way tinted windows are in a car, right? It's like being in a cube that is tinted, right? Because everything you look at on the outside is like dark. Like everything you see is like a dark box. It's like a tinted dark box that you're in, right? And the messed up thing about this box of depression, this cube, this depression cube, this room, right, is that there's, it seems that there's no escape. There's no way to get out of it, right? Because you can't, there's nothing helps, nothing that nobody says can help. There's no show that can help. There's no website. None of it helps. None of it helps. None of it really helps, right? right? And I don't really want to say none of it helps because it, learning helps. Learning helps, but not enough to get you out of it, right? Let me tell you how to get out of it, how to overcome it, to not be depressed anymore, right? Okay, here's the deal. The catch with the box, the depression box, right, is that when you try to get out of the box, you stand up and you start walking. No matter where you go, when you start moving, the box moves with you. You could get on a bus, you could get on a plane, you could walk up the street, go to the store, go to your friend's house. The box is always around you. When you move, it moves too. So there's no way to climb the walls or to, there's no way to get out of the box. Seemingly. And it's partially true. Let me explain to you how to get out of this box. I learned that no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, there's no way to get out of the box. There's no way, there's no exit, there's no special way that you could push something, there's no vibration that'll shatter it's all, there's no way, right? Except one. And that one way is you have to go within yourself in order to get out of the box. You have to go within yourself to get out of depression. And once you go within yourself and spend however much time it takes for you to go within yourself and come out the other side, when you open your eyes and look, you'll see the box and realize that you're outside of the box and you're not in it anymore. Because looking inside yourself means that you have to realize that everything in your life you created. You created the people, places, and things because if you did not allow them to be in your life, they would not exist to you. I'm not going to get deep into it, but we create everything that's in our lives. We created it. The situations, the people, we did that. When you go within yourself and realize that the pain that you're dealing with, you did it to yourself, you're the one that decided how you were going to feel about whatever happened. So you did that. Yes, something happened, but you chose to be mad about it. You chose to remain upset or sad about it. You're choosing to be this way, which means you're doing it to yourself. And my advice, my my way out of that, right? My way to overcome that is stop. Stop doing that. Why you're hitting yourself? Why you're hitting yourself? Why you're hitting yourself? Stop doing that. Okay? I mean, realize that you're doing it to yourself. And if you want to be better, if you want a better life, stop doing that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is change, right? Okay? Because I just told you how to get out of depression. There's no more for me to explain to you about that. In order to get out of the box, you have to go, to get out of depression, you have to go within yourself. To get out of that box, you have to go within yourself. When you're finished with that journey within the self, when you come out of that, you'll be out of the box. You'll be out of depression. Okay? So now, change. I'm going to talk about change now. You're listening to this because you want your life to change. You want your life to improve. I'll tell you the key to change. If you want your life to change, if you want the way people to see you, the way people treat you, if you want that to change, if you want your life to change, you have to change yourself because you are the source of everything in your life. You created everything. You're the source. You're the creator. You are the source of everything in your life. And so when you change yourself, the things around you change. The people around you change. The way they treat you change because you're not the same, so they can't treat you the same. Right? You're different now. You look different. You go different places. You're meeting different people. You're doing different things. Your life's gonna change. You rearrange your house, your room, your apartment. You rearrange it. You change it. You're gonna feel different. That's a different frequency, right? So in order to change your life, you have to change yourself. Not even going any deeper into that. It's self-exclamatory, logic and common sense, and true and real, and it works. Okay. Now, the next thing I'm going to get into is your character. Who are you going to be after you change? Who are you supposed to be? What are you here for? What's your purpose? It is said that people without a purpose don't consider life as real. Life is not real to them. People without a purpose, life is not real to them. Nothing really matters to them because they don't have a purpose, right? So life is like close to meaningless to them. It's sad. And that's psychology 101, right? Okay, so we get back to what character you are in the game. The key to changing the self, the magic, the secret to the secret. You're gonna so have to pay attention to this. The secret to the secret, the magic to changing your life, to wealth, happiness, everything, love. It's just the key to that. The secret behind the secret is the imagination. I don't look. It's the imagination. That's what they try to remove from us in kindergarten, throughout school. That's what they're attacking. That's what they have to remove because the imagination is where our power to create and manipulate reality, that's where that power lies. That superpower is the imagination. Let me explain. The you that you are now is not the you that you want to be. It's not the you that you're supposed to be, or you wouldn't be listening to me talking. So let me tell you how to find out who it is you're supposed to be and what it is you're supposed to be doing, right? The secret to that is in the imagination. When you imagine yourself, whatever you're doing, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Whatever you look like, that's what you're supposed to look like. You have to become that. You have to dress however that you is dressed because that's how you do the real you is supposed to dress, not how other people say to look, not what's accepted in society. Whatever you look like when you imagine yourself, that's what you're supposed to look like. Whatever you're doing when you imagine yourself, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Let me help you with that. Whatever your God given talents are, whatever it is that you're good at naturally, whatever it is that you're naturally interested in and have a passion for, that's what you're supposed to be doing. The combination of your image, what you look like in your imagination, and what you're supposed to, what you're doing in your imagination, and what your talents and gifts are, the combination of those three things is what the real you is. That's what you're supposed to be on this planet. That's the you that can provide uh, service to the world, that that can bring value to others. That's the you that will attract love and wealth and success, right? Okay? So I just told you a lot. I just gave you a lot. Now, whew, what's next? Let's see. Uh, oh, how to play. How to play the game. Once you know what character you're going to be, now you have to start playing the game. In playing the game, you have to know who your enemies are, who the enemy is, right? Who is it that you're fighting against? What's the storyline here, right? Okay. There are particular specific characters as far as enemies are concerned in the game, but there's no way that I'm going to run through all of those characters, right? What I'm going to say is that this game is based on cosmic commerce, and it's based on religion, cosmic religion, cosmic. So, in you realizing this, you must realize your cosmic citizenship. Your citizenship is Earth.